So, some pretty big news out of Amazon today. Recently, we got this new section in Amazon's KDP dashboard that it looks like Amazon is looking to figure out what books are written with AI and which are not. And so I'd like to actually walk us through this entire thing and talk about whether Amazon is maliciously going to be using this information to maybe ban Amazon books that use AI, or if this is something else. For all of you who are really worried, I'd say don't fret. This is not as big of a deal as it seems, but there are some really interesting implications about what this could mean. So stick around for my thoughts on that. First of all, let's define what this policy is. So if you come here, this is for one of my books that I did actually use AI for large chunks of the book. It's just one of my short little lore books that I have. If you come here under the KDP dashboard, under Kindle ebook contents, or if you were using the paperback version, it would say book content, I believe. This is where you update your manuscript. This is where you upload your book cover. And then here is where you can, now it gives you this space to talk about AI generated content. And it says, specifically, it says Amazon is collecting information about the use of artificial intelligence tools in creating content. And I think that's a key phrase right there. But they'll give some very clear instructions on what is considered AI and what is not. And if you go to their content guidelines, this is the section here that talks about it. It says, we require you to inform us of AI generated content. Now, I will say these are their content guidelines, which means they are expecting you to be honest here. And if they somehow find out that you are not honest, that could affect your position with them. And it could, result in your books being taken down and your account being banned. That said, well, we'll get to that. So they want you to inform you about AI generated content for text, images, or translation. So even if you used AI to translate a book, you'd need to disclose that as well when you publish a new book or make edits to and republish an existing book through KDP. You are not required to disclose AI assisted content. We distinguish between AI generated and AI assisted content as follows. AI generated. We defined AI generated content as text, images, or translations created by an AI tool. If you have used an AI-based tool to create the actual content, whether text, images, or translations, it is considered AI generated, even if you applied substantial edits afterwards. For AI assisted, if you created the content yourself and used AI-based tools to edit, refine, error check, or otherwise improve the content, whether text or images, then it is considered AI assisted and not AI generated. Similarly, if you used an AI-based tool to brainstorm and generate ideas, but ultimately created the text or images yourself, this is also considered AI assisted and not AI generated. It is not necessary to inform us of the use of such tools or processes. And then it says here, you are responsible for verifying that all AI generated and or AI assisted content adheres to all content guidelines. So basically what that means is make sure it isn't plagiarism, make sure it doesn't have offensive content, all of these other things that they mention here, illegal or infringing content, that sort of thing. So breaking this down, everybody has their own different process on how to use AI. And for some people, you're just going to be using it for brainstorming, for outlining, for creating your characters, that sort of thing. And if that's the case, that would be considered AI-assisted content. You don't have to disclose anything for that. If you are using AI to generate your actual chapters, then according to these standards, you would need to disclose that to Amazon. It says here, even if you applied substantial edits afterwards. Now, this is a tricky one because I would say some of the substantial edits that I make or that I see other authors make are pretty much rewriting the entire content. And so I would say there is a point where, like, if you're rewriting 90% of the content that was generated with AI, then maybe I would say call that AI assisted and not AI generated. But I also don't really understand what their definition of a substantial edit means. Is that like, changing a few words in each sentence? Is that rewriting entire chapters? I would say if you've done most of the writing yourself, of the finished writing, then don't even worry about that. But I do know people who generate the outline first, or generate the prose first, and then they kind of just rewrite it following the text that they were given, and sometimes they use some bits of the text, and oftentimes they don't. Sometimes it's just to give them an idea of where it should go, and then they do the actual writing. So it's a fuzzy line, and I would leave that to your discretion on how you want to do that. It is nice that Amazon is at least telling us their definition. This is a lot more specific and nuanced than I would have expected from Amazon, because it's telling us things like, if you're using it to brainstorm or generate ideas, that is not AI generated, that is AI assisted, and you don't have to disclose that. Similarly, if you're using it to edit, refine, error check. So if you're using pseudo-write, for example, to maybe enhance your description here or there, or to refine a certain chapter, or if you're using Pro Writing Aid to edit your book, or Grammarly, both of which are AI tools, then that would be considered AI assisted. The same goes for images or translations. And I will say, going back to my book here, this image was AI generated, the text was not, but this is largely AI generated. And so I'm going to go ahead and mark this. For the text, I'm going to say some sections with extensive editing. Because look at this. This is actually really cool that they give you the option to tell you exactly how much of the AI is AI generated, how much of the text is AI generated. And then they're asking you, which tools did you use? And so I'm going to say Chat GPT for this one, because I believe that's the only tool I used for this particular story. But very often I use a combination of the tools, so I might put Claude here or Pseudo-Write. For images, let's see, we can say one or a few AI generated images with minimal or no editing. I believe that is where this would fall, and so I would say Midjourney, because that's the only tool I really use for images. And then there are no translations here, so I'm going to just include that, save and continue, and then you just publish your ebook and everything should be fine. There is no indication that this will change anything about the back end of your book. It doesn't appear that they are restricting AI content, and I would be very surprised if they did, because if they did, people would just start not being honest in that space, and that's not really why Amazon is doing this. If you saw at the beginning, they are asking for information. Let's not forget that Amazon is primarily interested in profit. And if they were to ban AI books in any way, that would ultimately hurt their profit margins in the long run. So that is definitely not something that they're interested in. And they are also, let's remember, building their own AI platforms. And I would not be surprised if an end goal for Amazon is to not even have to rely on authors at all, and to be able to just create their own books based on what customers are searching for. I don't think that is going to happen in any kind of big disruptive way. I think the author will stick around primarily, but there is a good chance, I would say, that these big companies might try to edge out creators entirely, just providing AI to the end user and the customer. My point is, Amazon is definitely pro AI. They're building their own AI stuff. They are certainly not interested in excluding AI products from their space. But what it does say here is Amazon is collecting information. And so what I believe this is simple market research. They're interested in knowing who are the big players out there, because, you know, we can select what AI tools we used here. So who are the tools that people are actually using? Maybe they're interested in working with one of these providers, or maybe having some kind of partnership, or maybe acquisition. Like, what if they acquired Midjourney, for example? What would that do? This brings up another point that I think a lot of authors don't think about this, but I would bet money that Amazon is training their own AI on KDP books. Now, this would infuriate most of the author community if it came out, which is why I'm surprised that Amazon has not made any statement on it. They haven't even made a statement to the contrary, which is why I'm suspicious. But there are bits in their terms and services that if a good lawyer took them, you could argue that they have the legal rights to use any books that are uploaded to the KDP platform as part of the training data for their books. And so, you know, I personally don't have a problem with that, but a lot of authors would have a huge issue with that, and it could lead to massive groups of authors just taking their books off of Amazon, which is why I understand why they wouldn't do that. But there's a problem with that, and if Amazon is training their data on information that was AI written, that could actually end up hurting the AI model that they're trying to train. And so it wouldn't surprise me if Amazon is trying to differentiate between AI written content and AI assisted content by doing this survey so that they can actually have better data on what to train their own models on, which would be hilarious to me if that is the reason why they are doing that. And it, once again, would make a lot of authors furious to learn that that was the case. There is, of course, no definitive information that Amazon is training their models on our books. I just personally think that would make a lot of sense, and it would be within their rights to do so given their current terms of services, I believe. And I might be wrong, but I think that that is one of the ulterior motives behind this change. Ultimately, it seems like Amazon's just doing this for information purposes. They're not going to be displaying that your book is AI written, because if they did, they would lose a lot of authors being honest in this space. Like, I'm happy to be honest here, but if Amazon had like some big badge saying your content, that this content is AI generated, that would hurt my sales. Amazon knows it was hurt my sales. It's their sales too, which is why I don't think they're going to do it. But it would also mean I would probably just stop being honest in this field, which I hate to say it, but like, why would you want to do that if Amazon was publicly making that information available? And so that brings up another question, is how is Amazon going to enforce this? And I don't think they want to. I think they are just doing this for information. And obviously, if there was a way to enforce it, they would maybe look into that. But we know that AI detection is notoriously bad and is completely unreliable. And it's also expensive to run AI detection on an entire book. Amazon's not going to want to do all of that work, especially like anytime someone edits or updates a book, having to scan through it with an AI detector would cost money. And given that they're not very accurate anyway, I really doubt that Amazon has a good solution to actually detecting whether a book was AI content generated or not. And so I think Amazon is definitely doing this with the intention to just collect information. I don't think they are out to out authors who use AI. I don't think they are going to ban books that are written with AI. I simply think this is exactly what it says it is. And I think that Amazon might be training their own models on their books, and they want to know which ones were AI generated or not. So whatever the case is, this is nothing to be afraid about. I think it's actually kind of interesting that Amazon is doing this. It shows that Amazon is paying attention, which, is sometimes something that they don't do very well, but they are paying attention. We will see where this shakes out, and I look forward to where it's going. I'll see you in the next video.